Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the December issue of the Tucson Macintosh User Group. We'd like to welcome our sustaining members, our new members, our first-time guests, dual platform users, and switchers. I think I recognize everybody, but is there anybody here who's here for the first time? Didn't think so. Okay. Free raffle tickets for the super raffle. You could win $200 Apple gift card. The winner will be picked in March of 2025. Kurt will be taking attendance tonight and he will fill in the raffle slips for each of the members. To be eligible, the screen name displayed must match the record of the current TMUG membership. If we can't identify you, your name will not be placed in the raffle. Welcome to the December edition, and join us in celebrating Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, winter solstice, New Year's Eve, and the airing of the grievances. We will next gather on Tuesday, January 21, at this same virtual location. In January, we'll have an Ask Me Anything session, hopefully hosted by Kevin. Kevin's not here at this time. His internet went out today, and he was told to be back in the afternoon, which it was for 10 minutes. We have a guest speaker in January, Jill McKinley, who will help us obtain organizational bliss with Notion. Please see the chat window. Thank you, Bob, for the link to the feedback form for December. Please click on this link, and you could do it now. Click on the link now, and then it'll open up a window on your browser of choice, and you can fill in the form at your leisure, later tonight, tomorrow, whenever you get around to it. And we appreciate it because it helps us figure out what we're going to do in the future. Our new virtual door prize for our Zoom meetings. Last month, the winner was Tommy Freeman. Congratulations, Tommy. But you can't win again this month. TMUG elections will be in January. All members in good standing can run for office. We hope that you will consider doing that and helping us move the club forward. In January, the election will be chaired by our editor, Bob Doms. Thank you, Bob. Once again, TMUG is having a contribution drive for the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona. If you make a check out to the Community Food Bank of Southern Arizona and mail it to our TMUG address, the TMUG Treasury will match that gift and send it off to the food bank sometime after this meeting. Another new development is that TMUG is now able to offer Zelle as a method of payment for membership dues. To do that, all you need to do is send your payment to tmugdues@gmail.com. And then when Mark, our treasurer, gets it, he will let Kurt know, and your record will be marked as paid. But we still accept other forms of payment, such as checks in snail mail, if you are uncomfortable using Zelle, or whatever you prefer.
That's good news, Bob, because otherwise we might be worried that you were telling us to go to Zelle.
Yeah, go to Zelle, Chris. Go to Zelle. Uh,
He'll be here
uh,
all night, folks.
yeah. Make sure you tip your wait staff. They'll be here all night as well. Um, the Apple Store in Tucson is going through a remodel and expansion. Is it still in process, or have they moved into their new space? Does anybody know? Okay. It's my understanding that the storefront that they had is being closed for remodeling. They are in a different storefront now, and the old storefront will be expanded one or two more stores and remodeled and then opened up. So it'll be interesting to see.
You got the music on. Bob, they're still in the remodeling phase.
They're still in remodeling.
I
Thank you,
just-
Mark.
A couple of days ago.
Okay.
Are
It
they
would seem-
definitely
it would-
taking over a new store downstairs?
They're remodeling it.
Yeah, Sue, my wife was saying that the store next door to the Apple store was available, and she was wondering if they were going to take it and fill in that space.
We'll find out when they have their grand opening.
Yeah, that's what
I
they're
think
doing.
the answer is yes, but I don't know.
Yeah,
You know, going to that mall is like the other side of the earth for me out here in Vail.
might as well go to Phoenix at that point.
Yeah, if you wanted to go to Phoenix. Uh, please subscribe to the T-Mug YouTube channel. When we reach 50 subscribers, we will be able to do more with YouTube, such as a live stream. Another announcement would be, oh, okay, I know what I want to put in here now. Roger does a YouTube live stream every week called Go for Lunch. And he did one today on spamming through telephone, wrong number telephone, and other spamming stuff. And it was a terrific presentation. I strongly suggest that everybody here go to YouTube and watch his presentation from today. I've put the URL for that particular presentation in the chat a couple times already, and here it is another time. Please watch that. I know a few of us were there today, and I thought it was extremely useful, and I hope that you all see it and subscribe to Roger's YouTube channel as well. Are there, let's see, what announcements did I forget? What do we need to remind everybody about? I guess once again, I'm perfect. So,
Any
now
for-
I can,
Any,
right, Rich,
any for sales and want to buy?
very good. Are there any for sales or want to buys from the floor? I guess not. Okay. We're going to move on to the tech news and security updates with Ridge. Ridge, take it away.
Okay, here we are. December. And of course, our first things for this month will be the software updates that we've seen since the last time I talked to you. The things that are important probably are 1Password and BusyCal, and Carbon Copy Cloner, and Little Snitch, and Spam Sieve. And the latest version of Zoom that we're using today is 6.3.0. And you can see the others if you look and see if you got any in there that are on the screen. And I'll go to the next slide. And of course, Apple was busy, and their iWork apps for Mac OS Sonoma and up are now at 14.3, and for iOS 17 and up, they're same 14.3. And you know that the iWork apps, Apple calls their pages, numbers, and Keynote. And if you got a HomePod and you're running it, that's been updated. And if you're running Safari, you want to make sure you got the latest updates there. And Sequoia, Sonoma, and Ventura all got updated. And those are important, as we'll see later. We've got lots and lots of security fixes in those. And here are some more of the software updates from Apple. If you're running their professional program Logic Pro, it was updated. And you can see the rest of them there. And if you're running any of those operating systems, you want to make sure you got those updates as well. And the betas, Sequoia is got a beta out now, version 15.3. And of course, all the rest you can see, just about everything is in a beta situation right now.
Sunny said that.
Yeah, look at all those. And of course, the advice is don't go to the beta until it becomes a release candidate. And here's for those who haven't seen how really small the new Mac Mini is. And here's how it compares to the older Mac Mini on the bottom and the Apple TV on the top. And that Mac Mini is only 5 inches square. And I've got one, and it's a really nice machine. Of course, it comes with Sequoia, so you got to get used to Sequoia if you buy one of these. Now, Apple has announced it's going to be expanding their presence in Saudi Arabia. They're going to have an online store this summer and an online unspecified number of physical stores starting in 2026. And that picture is supposed to be a picture of somewhere in Saudi Arabia that accompanied the online article that mentioned this. Another company called Blackmagic that's releasing a Ursa Cinecom immersive camera for the Apple Vision Pro content creation. You can pre-order it, and it's supposed to ship next year, and it's going to cost at least 29 grand. But it does everything that the Vision Pro needs to show interactive applications, on the screen, on that big screen. And they're making an effort to replace the Qualcomm modems that are used in Apple's laptops and so forth with 5G modems of their own design. They hope to finish replacing them all by the year 2027. And another piece of information about the release of macOS 15.2, the ShirdPocket software reports that their super duper bootable backup software is broken until Apple fixes what's their broken replicator function in Sequoia. So don't expect super duper to do bootable backups until Apple fixes what they call their Apple Software Restore tool. And here's another head strap from another company. We saw Belkin last month, and this makes the Vision Pro more comfortable, and it's called the Contour head strap. And it's a medical vendor called ResMed. There are 2 sizes available, and they're going to be available on the Apple online store for about $120. Another miscellaneous item is that a recently granted patent shows Apple is still serious about a folding screen for their iPhones. And this is in the patent that was granted. I mean, it's supposed to show the guts of that screen's folding mechanism with all these gears and so forth. Looks kind of complicated to me. And here's some rumors. The next generation of the iPhone SE, is it going to include their 5G modem and be released next March? Who knows? And the next item is about what online rumor mongers are saying is supposed to come by next spring. The M4 equipped MacBook Air, that fourth generation iPhone SG, and an 11th generation iPad and a smart display for the home. Another item that is on the rumor list is will the M5 CPU going to make its first appearance in an iPad Pro late next year? We don't know, but we'll have to see. More rumors. There's supposed to be a giant foldable iPad with a MacBook-like design going to go on sale in 2028. And they're supposedly working on a small Vision Pro-like device to be called the Apple Glass Smart Glasses, much smaller and lighter, and it'll probably take 3 more years to get glasses ready for release. And they're also supposedly working on giving the next year's MacBook Pro an OLED screen that has a top hole cut pinhole camera rather than a notch cut at the top of the screen. And Apple is rumored to be working on a replacement to their Magic Mouse next year. And the new design is said to finally kill off the major sticking point of that mouse, which is this charging port on the bottom of the mouse so you can't use it while it's charging. Thanks so far for your attention. Now we'll turn to items of security interest for this year. The only software that had significant updates for critical security flaws were Chrome for Mac and Firefox for Mac. And Apple was also very active in security updates. Look at all the Safari for Ventura and Sonoma. They had eight security fixes, and Sequoia, two updates had 46 total fixes. And Sonoma had 26. Ventura had 23. And the iPad OS had 23. And the 17 version of iOS had 16. TV had 16 and Vision 15 total, and the watch had 16. So if you're using any of this Apple stuff, you want to make sure you have the latest version. Now for cybercrime, a company called MacPro has a security team that they reported that this year saw a noteworthy increase in malicious activity targeting Mac operating system users. There was a significant growth in both the variety and accessibility of macOS malware. And the darknet was flooded with posts and discussions on bypassing Mac operating system defenses and leveraging artificial intelligence tools for malware development and capitalizing on social engineering to distribute macOS malware as a service. One striking shift has been the decrease in cost associated with acquiring Mac operating system malware. A malware service that once might have cost tens of thousands of dollars is now available for just around $1,500 per month. And then this year we've seen threat actors turn to artificial intelligence tools like ChatGPT to simplify the process of malware creation. Screenshots from darknet forums reveal interactions with artificial intelligence that guide attackers step by step on how to pack macOS malware with Pile Installer, create DMG files, and extract keychain data, and even target crypto wallets. But one Russian-speaking threat actor known as Barbaros openly shared their process using artificial intelligence to piece together a Mac operating system stealer while admitting they had no prior coding experience. And finally, Apple is still regularly updating XProtect, XProtect Remediator, and Gatekeeper to do what it can to keep Mac operating system and your files safe from the so-called bad guys. Thanks for your attention, and of course, the overall moral of my presentation is stay safe. The bad guys are out there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks, Ridge.
Thank you, Ridge.
stopping my share.
Is it time to get out antivirus?
My microphone was muted. Now turning it over to Chris Wesselman for the Accessibility Minute. Chris, what do you have for us this month?
Well, a lot of folks remember my special home button thing. I don't know if you can see it on there. That's a bad screen. Let me try a different one here. Let me try just against the home screen, where I have a lot of handy little buttons in the black square there for restart and screenshot, which I use very frequently. Volume up and down sometimes when I need them. And it's easier than the buttons on the side. And what I was looking at, it's very handy except when I'm doing photography. And I have several photography apps that I know and love, which I could talk about on a different time. But the question became, well, I've got this new action button. What can I do? Well, I discovered that I could turn off my shortcut home screen button with the action button. So I just press and hold, it's on. I press and hold, it's off. And I want to tell you that is the coolest thing I think I've been able to do on the iPhone in a couple of years. It sounds silly, but when you're working through stuff quickly, particularly if you want to switch to a camera and take shots of something really quickly, it's so handy just to be able to turn that thing off with just the press of a button. So for those of you that do have the iPhone 15 or 16 with the action button up here above the volume up switch, be sure to find something to use it with because it's amazingly handy. And some people still use it just to turn the phone on and off for the ringer. You can do that, and there's lots of other things you can do with it. But so that was one thing I was going to share. The other thing is in iOS 18, we now have the ability to record phone calls. And there's a little button in the upper left of the screen with some vertical lines, and you can press that, and it apparently will record your call. I happen to be dealing with a difficult medical billing service that thinks I owe some extra money on a surgery, which I don't, and which is a bit curious. But I've had my own insurance company tell them they're not following procedures. Didn't seem to help much. But at any rate, from now on, if they want to record the call, I'm going to ask them, that's fine. Can I record it too? So that may come in handy. There's also a transcription service. So if you've got like a doctor calling and you want to record the call and transcribe it later, that kind of stuff, it could be a handy thing to have. And so if folks have interest in that, let me know through the board, the chat board, and I will put up some instructions. But I think that's it for me this month, Bob. Oops, look like you're muted, Bob.
Yeah, let me turn my mic back on. Thank you. And I don't think I audibly thanked Ridge for his contribution. I know I did, but the mute button was on again. Thank you for providing that for us most months. Now we're going to have a little time for show and tell. Did anybody here except Ridge get a new M4 Mac this fall? Anybody here planning on getting one or having Santa deliver it to him next week?
I'm planning on getting one soon.
Okay. What a mini or what?
Yes, an M4 Mini.
Okay, oh, and Gerald Gifford has joined us. We're still missing our guest speaker. Marty Gensius. He is um, on Mac Voices right now. But speaking of Marty, Marty has a new podcast that started 4 or 5 weeks ago. It's called The Old Mac Gang, OMG. And you might want to subscribe to it and listen to it. It is Marty and a couple seasoned citizens that he deals with, two of them from Ohio and two of them from Tucson, those being Chris Wesselman and myself. We record on Wednesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, which is thankfully only 7 p.m. our time, or I would be asleep. And you can subscribe to it in your podcatcher of choice and give it a listen. I'm pretty much enjoying it. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, it's been fun. Our cohorts in Ohio are really interesting folks.
Mhm. And Marty is a T-Mug member now. And one of the other guys, I can't remember whether it's which one it is also a T-Mug member.
Gary said he joined.
Okay.
Mhm.
Gary is a member. So we have more out-of-staters to go along with Gerald Gifford, Jerry Gifford, Lee Siegman. Who else is, as I'm looking at the list here, somebody else is here who is, well, we had somebody leave who was in New York State. And so we have we're getting a more broader base joining us for our meetings.
One of these nights I'll try to see if I can join.
What was that, Melissa?
So one of these nights I'll try to join. One of these Wednesdays, if I can make it. 7 o'clock.
Yep. Yep. And I think even though, Melissa, you don't meet the criteria of being an old guy, we would welcome you anyway.
Well, I am an Apple Wallet card carrying AARP member now.
Yeah, yeah.
I mentioned that already on your behalf, Melissa.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for
But
vouching.
I knew you
Do
had a
I,
birthday coming up.
do I have to show my wallet pass to get in?
no,
No.
no. No,
There's no
you don't.
QR code to scan. I could show you my handy dandy trunk organizer or my Bluetooth speaker just came today in the mail.
Oh, okay. What kind of Bluetooth speaker did you get?
Oh, just a no-name thing. It's got a little AARP sticker on the bottom of it.
Good luck to see if it works.
Yeah, I know, right? I haven't even tried it. It's probably gonna broadcast something. Who knows? But I get my coupons now. Let me know when you want to go to Denny's.
That speaker will only play AARP ads.
Probably. I'll be
Ah,
dreaming about
and
insurance as I fall asleep.
it looks like Marty is joining the group here or trying to. I saw him appear in the.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. There he is.
Okay,
Hey,
I'm
I
just
see
checking.
you now in the grid of people. Welcome, Marty. Are you ready
Thanks for-
to?
Welcome, Marty.
Hi,
Are you ready
thanks
to
for
proceed?
thanks for having me. I enjoy doing this. Anytime you ask, you'll get a yes from me.
Okay, great. We just talked about the Old Mac Gang podcast, and hopefully we'll have some more subscribers from Tucson for you. Melissa
Well,
said that,
you know we've got to get out of Apple purgatory, as I'm calling it now, and I'll explain that at the end of the presentation.
Okay, well, I thank you for stopping your normal Tuesday with Chuck Joyner and the Mac Voices gang to speak to us. And we're ready for you to start if you're ready to start.
Okay, just to also let you know, Chuck Joyner and David Ginsburg sends their regards. I let them know, and it was in the show that I was leaving early to come to T-Mug, and they were all very pleasant in terms of sending their regards to your group. So um,
They're
let
nice
me
people.
figure, yeah, let me figure out what I need to do here. I think I need to share my screen. What I'm going to do tonight is talk about, and I'm going to try some things. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But there's a lot of text in what I have to share. And so I might move through it quickly, but I have a PDF file of my presentation that I can share, and it can go out to the group, and you can use it in whatever way you want for the group if you want to get down to the details of some of the stuff I'm talking about. Really, the presentation was one that I started at Macstock, and it kind of came out of frustration with my own Mac user group, Northeast Ohio Apple Corps. And we have been around since 1978, and the group post COVID is devolved a little bit more into a social club than an actual Mac group. So, or what I think a Mac group is. So I've kind of jumped around and joined other groups since groups are using Zoom, and sort of getting my Apple fix from other groups, particularly the beginning part where people are sharing questions and how do you do this, and people are coming towards solutions. So this presentation was about really what you can do to assist people who are more apprehensive about learning to solve their tech problems. And it's evolved a little bit. Particularly today, I spent some time looking at it, and I thought there's a big piece that I want to talk about tonight, which is if you are around relatives or around friends over the holiday season, you'll probably be asked to fix something because you're the tech-based person, you know that. So um, I've got some ideas on things that you can use, and again, you'll get the slides. Bob in the old Mac gang suggested the Mac Power User podcast. They had a episode that talked about troubleshooting with people and how to troubleshoot. And so I had listened to that podcast, was about halfway through it when Bob suggested it. And I think it's a great episode of that podcast. What I've done is taken the transcript of that podcast, ran it through ChatGPT, and come up with the salient points from that. And we'll talk about those. And I'm giving full credit to the folks at Mac Power Users. It really is a good episode that you can go back and listen to. So let me set up my share because I have to set up my share before I can start my slides. And now I have to find my slide set. And I will go ahead and start the slide set. Now, are you seeing the slides, I think? Fine.
Yeah.
Thanks. Because I played around with this. I've had trouble when I'm teaching. I've got 3 monitors, and I had to figure out the configuration in order to get it so people could see it. If you have phones available, you might want to pull them out because we're going to move into an activity or try to move into an activity that will just for some fun. So that's my contact. You'll get that again at the end. So the problem as I saw it, particularly with my Mac user group, was I was one of the two trainers. Um, and we wound up being used for all the meetings. And I think as a user group, you need to think about that in terms of with the training that happens, are you relying on one or two people because they get burnt out? And then in my case, there was kind of this, well, Marty, what are you going to talk about next meeting? There was this assumption that I was going to do that. And for me, and I teach at a university, I teach in counseling and I teach group work. So for me at a university, for me from my discipline, it's like get as many people involved in the process and trying to encourage many people to no, maybe somebody else would like to give. Oh, you do it so well. You're a president. You're a teacher for a living, and I don't know all this stuff. You know all this stuff. So it can be a drain when you're constantly relied on for that purpose. And I saw with our group, presidents come and then presidents disappear because they were constantly being used for the training purpose of it. What happened with us and what happened with everybody I'll share in the next slide was COVID came and that changed the nature of our group dramatically. The other thing that you might want to consider this would be helpful for is you might be the technology troubleshooting guy or gal. And that's in the view of family, friends, maybe if you're in an office, folks who are at your office see you as that. I'm trained and I have my PhD in counselor education, but when somebody comes down the hall and asks me how to reboot their computer, I'm of the age where when I went to school, you had projector boys. And I'm sorry, it was only boys at that time. And those were the folks that were asked to, in between classes, go get the projector, set up the movie for the teacher, and then go to their class. So I started referring to myself as Dr. Projector Boy to remind them that I had a PhD and I do more than set up projectors for people. So, office and professional associates are some of the people that might turn to you for technology assistance. This is a sampling of people in our group. In fact, it's pretty much the remaining members of our group. There's maybe 4 or 5 more folks, but in this case, so I want you to take a look at this picture. And I want you to try and guess just by looking at the group, who are the trainers in this group? The guy in the upper left is Bob. He's a retired engineer. Denny is in the upper right, and he, I think, is retired military. Neil and Gail are below him. Richard and Alice are also below Neil and Gail. Gary is the bottom center, and he's part of the old Mac gang. And then Peter is the lower left. So who do you think the trainers are? You can turn your mics on and just shout it out.
Peter,
And what makes you say Peter?
because he's got a close up.
It just looks like he does he has the look. Let me say it that way.
Well, Peter has lost this look. Peter it used to have a beard, apparently. That's the only picture I could find of him on the internet.
Oh,
And he's a little older now, but yeah, he is like one of the trainers, and he attempts to do and respond to questions when they do come up with our group. They don't come up a lot. Bob is in the upper left is pushing 90, and Denny is in his upper 70s. Neil and Gail and Richard and Alice, I'm not sure about their ages. Gary in the middle at the bottom is 87 years old. I think we found that out. He's also part, as I mentioned, the old Mac gang. And then Peter is in the upper 70s, I think, or lower 70s, and is also part of the Old Mac Gang, along with Bob and Chris, as part of the podcast. So we started back in 1978. We had monthly in-person meetings at the local library. Local is a misnomer. It's a 50-minute ride for me to get there. I tried to find a Mac user group, and this was the closest one that was available. And I have been going there probably 10 or 15 years, and got really involved in them. It is and was a good group. We had about 50 regular active members. We met once a week or once a month at the library for only in-person meetings at the time. And they have a long history of involvement. Then COVID hit, and we started to lose members. We lost members. Frankly, we had some meetings where people were in hospitals on their iPhones after they had been hit with a bout of COVID, and they were at the meeting because they wanted to be at the meeting, and then they succumbed to the medical problems that they had. So we lost some members as a part of that, and that was sad to see happen. But we started using, during COVID, we started using Zoom for meetings, and we were going to do it once a month, but I think there was a lot of personal need for people to connect. So they said, well, let's do it. If people can come in next Saturday morning, let's come in. Now it is a regular Saturday 1 hour meeting. And we have around 10 members that show up. And the structure of the meeting, I'll tell you after we try this next experiment. This is a QR code. And if you can scan it, it will take you to Slido, where it will ask you the question, what are NEOAC's top topics? Let me know if people are getting that. Okay. I'm going to switch to the page that you should see come up. And if the tech gods are with me tonight, you should be able to put your responses in, and it'll form a word cloud.
It's working on my phone.
Okay.
It's working on mine too.
Yeah, I'm seeing some action here, so things should be showing up. Thank you.
Yeah, I've got quite a bit zooming around in the middle.
Oh, well, because I'm not seeing it on the screen here. Oh, let me go previous.
I got it.
Pretty cool.
Working on my phone too.
Well, somebody's got their microphone transcription on.
Working on my phone as well.
Not seeing it here.
Yeah, I'm not seeing hello or working on my phone on my iPhone. So it's like it's getting some source from someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
No, but
Well,
I'm getting a box with different sized words of what would be the requested topics. I assume the bigger the word, it's the most people have suggested it.
Yeah, mine
Yeah,
says
it might-
passwords, troubleshooting iCloud.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
thank
capital
you.
I.
Yeah.
I added some things to it to see if I could, and I can tell other people added things. Somebody else added Apple announcements, Mac, iPhone. how to turn off the computer.
Okay, so if we can pause, and for those that are getting the full screen, read off some of the topics.
iCloud, passkeys, troubleshooting, passwords, Apple TV, iPhone, AI, Mac, security, Apple
Okay,
announcement.
The four
Okay.
biggest ones are troubleshooting, passwords, passkeys, and iCloud.
Mhm.
wow. These are the top topics from our group. Personal illness stories.
Oh my.
That's what people want to talk about in our group.
Oh,
So it's
Oh.
like, tell me, do you have a Mac
What?
problem or something that you'd like? Let's start off and we'll go around and we'll see if you have anything, questions about your Mac. Well, I went to the doctor today and the doctor said that I have to do this and I have to do that. And so personal illness stories, number one thing. That's not what they say. That's, it's a Mac group. The second one is motor assisted biking.
Oh.
We have a couple of members who really like bikes and motor assisted bikes. So they're, when it's their turn to talk, it's like, well, I did a ride this week that was 20 miles long and, I'm using this new bike. And so, home appliance issues. I bought a refrigerator that doesn't work. I had to take it back. They wouldn't take it back. They wouldn't send a repairman out. And this is my favorite. The same question or problem at the last meeting with no attempt to apply a solution given at the last meeting. So someone will say, well, I'm having problems with my iPad. It won't do this and it won't do that. And so Peter or someone, I'll Google it and find a solution and put it in there for the individual. And then the next meeting, it's like, so tell us what happened. Well, I haven't fixed my iPad yet. Now, what do I have to do? So it seems like there's not progress going on, even when it is sort of Mac related. And then the last thing is things you can buy at Sam's Club. That's a big discussion item in our group. I got this at Sam's Club, or you should go to Sam's Club. You can get this. So this is what our Mac user group is kind of turned into, with various attempts to change that. And one attempt was we had a meeting that was just about changing the meeting and saying, well, let's do this. We meet 4 times a month. The first Saturday of the month, we're going to dedicate it to a topic where we'll do some training. That sounds good. Nobody came up with a topic and nobody came up with the training that they wanted to have happen. So nothing was so we devolved back into what you saw in the previous slide. Sometimes it means working with allies. It means bringing people in that have a special interest or a special topic that they want to present on. And it also means if it's always going to be Peter or myself doing the training, then what we try to do is train one person at a time. And, for the bike enthusiasts, they use apps that they use for their biking and their distance. And we're like, why don't you present on that app? That app really, at least get them kind of engaged in the process. And difficult for them to, they don't see themselves as a teacher. Well, just share it. It doesn't have to be perfect. But they're like, well, I'd have to prepare. And it's not like Peter or I don't have to prepare. So trying to train one person at a time. And like, I am not the photos guy. I don't know photos. Photos are a big conversation discussion in our group when they do talk about apps. They want to know how to do things with photos, or can you do this with photos? I don't shoot photos. I don't mess. I have my 10,000. I'll be able to look at them for the rest of my life. I don't need any new photos to add into my photo share. But that's a big topic. And we have one guy, Denny, who does a lot of photography. But to get Denny to try and train is real difficult. We did it one time because we started going back to once a month group meetings at the library. And at the library, it turned out that all the trainers couldn't be there. So Denny had to train something on photos, and he did it. I wish I would have been there to see it, but then Denny would have said, "Oh, Marty, why don't you present something?" Also using the Apple Worldwide User Group University, that is members from, generally it's presidents or leaders from the different mugs that are around are part of that. It was started by Tom Piper, who I met through Macstock and was a regular at Macstock until he passed away this last year. And the group has been sort of revived. And I was in there a couple of nights ago because it's on Monday nights, and in the fall I teach on Monday, so I couldn't attend. But there were a good 30 people or so in the group actively talking about stuff to do with Mac user groups. So that's helpful. Join other user groups for networking. Gary, who you saw, the 87-year-old guy, he's like, we need to talk to Bob and Chris more. We have enough money in our treasury because we're not spending it on anything. We just ought to give everybody who's still around a membership to TMUG for a year. And they can attend virtually and be part of a group that is doing more than what we're doing right now. So Gary has been kind of re-energized around that idea. And then Macstock, if you can make it to Macstock, it's great. Bob, I've met there. Roger ran the board for us the whole time for it and was an integral part of making that process work. So Macstock is a good experience for a couple of days. And I need to spend more of my after hours at Macstock with folks who are at Macstock. But there's a lot of great training that goes on there. This is a picture of my wife on the far left, my brother-in-law, and my wife's sister. They all have iPhones. Bruce and Faith live in Champaign, Illinois, and I get a phone call from them a couple of times a year regarding some technology question that they have. I almost got off the hook of being their tech support because their son married a woman who worked at an Apple store and was part of the Genius Bar. And so she got most of it. And there are stories that Faith and Bruce would get off the plane. She'd take their phones and then take them to an Apple store because their phone was like 5 years old, and just give them new phones or get them new phones and fix it. They're like, we're going to get you up to speed. Since then, she's gone into medical training. She's in her residency years. And my stock has gone up as a tech advisor. And so I do get calls from Bruce, text messages from Bruce. The latest was over the holidays. We started, since we have a blended family. We have some Android users in my family, Aileen's family, really. And so we went to Thanksgiving, and my nephew, who is from the Philippines, where my wife's brother is at and has been for years, we both decided to start a WhatsApp group because it solves a lot of the problems that you have with multiple devices and multiple platforms. So we started on Thanksgiving doing a lot of, let's get you on the app, let's do that and do this. Bruce had the hardest time in the world trying to figure it out. And I spent one day last week receiving text messages from Bruce on how do I get this thing to work. Thanksgiving and the holiday season is happening. So tech support, you as tech support is now open. And I'm curious if if that's fallen on other people's shoulders in terms of you're the tech person in the family.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. So, ways to turn around working and home. So what are things that you can do to turn around folks in the work setting? If you're not IT, send them to IT. And sometimes I do that with other faculty that they need to work through IT on this, particularly if they're Windows users, because I can feign stupidity with Windows, and I don't have to fake it too much. I was a Windows user for years, but haven't done much with it. So if you're at work, there's a whole department that handles that generally. I had a situation where I was using a reference manager for academic references, and other members in the program, my program, got it. And I just suggested, instead of me teaching you all individually, as you add the app, let's set up a group training. So I just did a group training at work around a particular piece of software that we were using. An apple a day keeps the windows away. Yeah, Melissa, I'm sorry. Yeah, Tom Piper passed away. And he was the one that really talked up my first MacStock, talked up about how user groups and things about user groups. And I really wanted to get an opportunity. That's what got me. Well, I knew about and was involved in NeoAC, but he was really kind of a proponent for user groups there. So back to this. The other thing then, strategic incompetence is the term that I use. It's sort of like Columbo. If you know the old Columbo, I don't quite know what you're talking about here. Could you explain that a little further? When you know all the time, you know, Columbo knows what's going on. So I plead strategic incompetence in situations that I don't want to get involved in or necessarily be relied upon for that purpose at the office, when there are other sources, or when I think the person is avoiding having to learn taking responsibility for the tools that they're using. Some people say that in my case, incompetence comes without the strategic part, but it is one of the strategies that I use. Couple strategies for home. I'm going to give you a list of typologies. This is something that I created using some things around learning theory and mashing it up with what we know about Luddites, what we know about tech resistors and such. And these typologies we'll go through them. I've got to keep track of the time. We'll go through them kind of quickly, but you can go back and look at them. And it gives you the strategies that people are using to avoid addressing their technology issues, and then strategies you can use to get them more engaged. So, and then strategic incompetence. I don't do Windows, I don't do Android, and as I've explained, I don't do photos. So that's another strategy. So what you're looking at is the reluctance for people to be able to troubleshoot. And these are the typologies I'm talking about. It's listed here, and then I break them down a little bit. I won't go through all of them very extensively, but I'll go quickly, and you can again, you'll have access to the slides to read them if you want to. So lack of personal agency. This is the first thing I thought of when I was thinking about how do you help people who are technology reluctant to get involved in their own sense of fixing things. And people who have a lack of personal agency, they kind of believe they don't have any control or influence over their own learning. They might have had past negative experiences in using technology, and for that reason, they don't feel like they have the agency, the ability to be able to do this kind of stuff, and they have low confidence in their tech skills. So keep the tasks simple so they can get a sense of agency when they accomplish them. So don't make them do 10 steps. Have them do 2 steps and then celebrate the 2 steps. Keep them simple, keep them small with simple wins, and celebrate their success with it. So think of people you know in your world or people that might have approached you that really have a lack of control or influence over their own learning. Maybe people in your group, maybe people in your family that just don't feel like they can do it. I think Faith is one of those. You know, my sister-in-law, she just really doesn't feel that she can do it. She's not trying to get me to do it for her. She just really doesn't feel that she has the confidence in her tech skills to be able to do it. They don't know how to find solutions. There's a group of people who just don't know how to find solutions. I have been generally my first and last stop is to use Google. And Google now has a add-on that is an AI add-on called Laboratory. And all I know is that when I open up Chrome and do a search on it, there's a little Erlenmeyer flask up in the corner that tells me that I'm using Laboratory. And you can go into your Chrome and look for Laboratory and turn it on. And what it does is if I type in, when I do AI stuff, I make really long prompts and I give as much information as I can. So I'll type a lot. It's a mess if you read it, but AI sorts that out. And so I'll type in the problem and I'll type in on this machine or on this operating system. I'll put in as much information as I can. And Laboratory brings back a step-by-step plan for what to do to fix something. It's really pretty amazing. So when we're sitting in our mug meetings on Saturday morning, somebody will ask a question, and while they're telling how everything went wrong with their iPad, I'm typing in all that in to Chrome and generally finding a step-by-step plan for them, pasting it into the chat room so they can see the step-by-step plan, or sending them the link to go to the page that will give them that solution. So they don't have the tool set. They don't know where to find solutions. And so part of what you can do with your friends or family is to show them how that works. Because they don't, they think Google is for finding websites. It's not for finding solutions. And now it's with AI generated stuff. There's much more to it. People are afraid of making mistakes. And this kind of maybe goes on to the idea that if I do something on a computer, I could break it. And they have a greater sense that what they're going to do is break it and it can't be fixed. Or they'll mess it up further. So they get frozen. They kind of stop. And what you can do with them is kind of simulate the process of what they're doing, but do it on your system to show them that a lot of this is risk-free. And that you can sometimes, in many cases, undo and revert the changes that you make. And, just let them know this is how you learn, sometimes by making mistakes to figure it out. I remember the first Mac I got. It was loaned to me by our IT department because I wanted to, this was back in 2006. I wanted to make what they called was an enhanced podcast. It was basically an audio file that had pictures embedded in it. So if you had it on like an iPod and you were playing it, you would see the pictures move by. And as an educator, it's like, oh man, I can do essentially PowerPoints with an audio track and send it out as a podcast to students or whoever wants it. So I have to do that, I have to do it on a Mac. So they sent me a Mac, and I don't know what I did, but on the front, on the opening window, they had like the Word app on it. And I was used to using Windows, so I saw the icon for Word. It's like, I don't want that on my desktop. So I deleted it, not knowing I deleted the whole program. So, you learn from your mistakes. You learn about how files are connected in this operating system versus the other operating system. Reliance on others. Some folks just prefer to say, you are my tech support. That's why God has placed you on this world. That's your job, and that's how I see you, Dr. Projector Boy. So the idea of encouraging them to reduce the assistance and teaching them a process that they can feel some personal agency by figuring it out on their own. So they're less reliant on other people. And you can use peer support groups to share experiences and solutions. I think that's what Mac users groups are. You can also give them guides and FAQs. You can teach them how to use Laboratory on Chrome. And let me go through these. Some people think it's just too complex. And so you have to kind of give them clear, jargon-free language. Sometimes diagrams, flowcharts, and videos help. And then make practical sessions on how to do things. Some people refuse. They just don't want to learn anything new. And I suspect there's a good portion of people in our Mac user group that folks just don't want to learn something new. They want the problem fixed. It's difficult because I think we have a tendency to hold on to our tech a lot longer. And so they're asking us questions about Ventura. And it's like, I can't answer questions about Ventura. Those memory cells died a couple of years ago. And so the challenge with our user group and maybe with others is people hold on to their technology. They're trying to be frugal. They're trying to stay with something that's familiar. And the technology and what we can do with it goes beyond what they ever could do. So there's kind of a loss of interest or a loss of sense they could get there. We had one guy, Johnny, who is the bike guy. And Johnny in our group would show up every week and talk about another device that had been broken. And he had an iPhone for a while where he could only see half the screen because the screen was broken. It's like, John, get it fixed. Don't get it fixed because it's already 5 years old. Just get a new one. And every week he'd show up and he's like, yeah, I haven't done anything about it. Yeah. And so then he got a new one. And that was like a whole new world for him in terms of it. And Gary, who is an old accountant in the old Mac group user, he always complains to me outside of the group, these folks have tons of money. They could just get a new phone. It's like they're saving up this account for what? So, Gary's a little bit less frugal in terms of thinking about that. So this comes from Mac Power users. These are some of the things. This, I think, I thought about it is if I'm going away for the holidays, and I'm going to meet up with family or family's going to come to me and I know their technology will be a bit of the topic. For those that are not tech savvy, these are the kinds of things that either questions they'll bring or things that I'm going to have concerns about. This is fresh, new, so and there's a bit of information in it. Again, the slides will, when you get them, will be a helpful resource for it. But it says these are the things that you need to think about with family tech support. Common issue is people come and say, my iCloud storage is full. Apple only gave me 5 GB, and I've already got 20,000 photos of my grandchildren there, and I don't know what to do. And I don't, and in a lot of ways, people don't want to pay for more iCloud storage. So some options are just to talk to them about the value of what you're getting. Do you want your photos, if it's sitting on their phone, you've even got bigger problems because that phone breaks or that phone gets lost or stolen, those photos are gone. So really trying to have a conversation with them about the importance, maybe helping them set it up, and how this is really a cost benefit for them to be able to have the important things like their photos and other documents being able to be backed up and be secure, whatever happens to their device. So some suggestions on here, Apple recommends like offloading unused apps. Generally, it's not just an app or two that are causing the problems. And when you offload them, you're not going to see a magnificent amount of space that happens because of the apps. Yeah, nice. Jerry? Oh,
I just said it's the data that's the problem.
the data. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's thinking about is, 99 cents a month or $12 a year to increase to 50 gigabytes. Is that going to give you what you need in terms of offload storage? Sometimes when it's the phone, they've got a phone 5 years old that has a lot of stuff on it, and it was maybe 125 or 256 megabytes or gigabytes, excuse me. And the phone is filled up, and maybe when they get a new phone, they need to consider upgrading to a larger storage. Sometimes it's messaging history. You can set your messaging history and all the stuff that goes with it, the data that Jerry was referring to. You can set your messaging history so it saves everything forever. And do you need to save everything forever? I think is the question there. I'm looking at backup solutions. These are the other things that folks want to know about. Well, I can get it from Google cheaper. Why can't I just buy storage from Google? Well, it's not integrated the way it's integrated into your iPhone system. So assisting them with this large question about storage with their devices or with iCloud, I think is one piece. The other problem is printer troubleshooting. I hate printers. I have given up on my wireless HP printer. HP has got all sorts of problems, I think, because they're basically requiring you to sign in. So they are seeing, or everything passes through HP when you want to use their printer. So I have one behind me. It's on the floor, and I don't use it as much as I should. I took it off wireless and just hardwired it because wireless was failing on me more than it was successful. So encouraging people to, use Print Center when jobs are stuck, use AirPrint for iOS devices, and Printopia for older platforms, and just reduce the print reliance. I mean, save the document as a PDF, and then it becomes a document that you can have and share through email or store in the cloud without having to worry about printer. And most typically during this holiday season, here's what I did. I did all my shopping early, and I have relatives throughout the United States, and I got it all bunched up. I'm like, okay, let me do my sister. So I got it all bunched up in Amazon, got all of the gifts wrapped by Amazon, and purchased it. And 2 days later, all of the gifts arrived at my house because I didn't change the address. So today I ran over to the UPS store and paid additional, reboxed them up, and they were in Amazon boxes. So the guy says, "Oh, is this a return?" No. This is not a return. Here's the address it's going to. So I got all of her stuff shipped again. But I could print out all those return stuff in sheets and bring them in, or I could just have it in the email on my phone and show them the QR code when I go there to do it. So encouraging less print reliance. In higher ed, we used to print everything. And we still have some faculty who do. Some faculty insist that dissertations that are 200 pages or more come to them in printed form so they can turn the page while they write on it. But really kind of reducing that so it's all electronic in that way. Other issues that you'll deal with family members is slow Wi-Fi. And the Wi-Fi issue could be caused by the ISP routers. Now, the folks on Mac Power Users talked about getting you're buying your own router because the routers that they give you through services are pretty crappy. And this might be a better option for folks to use and then help them set up the routers. I don't do Windows, I don't do Android, I don't do photos, and I still cognitively cannot figure out routers. So I wouldn't necessarily encourage that. I've used mesh systems before, Eero, and I used the Google Mesh, which really worked pretty well when I had 2 kids still in the house and we're on a 3-level house. So my son would be burning through the internet on the 3rd floor and I'd be on the 1st floor trying to do work. So I set up a mesh system that worked well, but with them out of the house, I put the Wi-Fi right behind me on the table and I don't have a problem with the work that I do or through the house. But looking at better speed and coverage in areas where possible, and teaching them how to run speed tests. And then there are apps that are Wi-Fi sniffer apps that will check for channel interference. So it might be that it's better that this Wi-Fi device switches to a different channel in order for it to be effective. So common issue is Wi-Fi issues for people when you visit them on the holidays. And then a whole section on proactive safety measures. Enabling Find My for safety purposes. We took a trip to Southern Illinois for Thanksgiving. My son took my car. I took a rental. And my son, for the first time, he's 30 years old, turned on Find My, which meant I could tell where he was on the route. And I thought that was pretty kind. I think it's still on. Don't tell him. He probably forgot. But I like that. And I do the same thing with my wife. And she does, and I share my location with members of my family. It was funny with my son's case. He was driving down the highway and I could see his face moving down the highway on the map. And his fiance, who was also sharing her location with me, for some reason was like a mile behind him. And I can only imagine that he was driving down the highway and he let her out and she's running to catch up to him. And eventually she'd catch up to him. But it was helpful to know that they were moving along safely with that. Legacy contact setup. We need to talk about this on the old Mac gang, how to set up legacy contacts, and finding trusted folks that will be able to, should you leave this earthly plane without any plan, they'll be able to access your data on your behalf and do what needs to be done with it. I have like 600 movies or so that I've purchased on iTunes. And when I go, kind of want to give my son my Apple ID and just let him keep it open. Otherwise I can't leave that to him any other way. But thinking about that in terms of accessing important photos, passwords to get into places. And then the whole idea of password management. Apple has its own password tool. I've been using it more. People talk about 1Password. Sometimes it feels intrusive when I'm on a page and it it always pops up and asks me, Apple's less intrusive. I don't know if Apple's password is going to eventually Sherlock 1Password, and 1Password will lose business because of that within this ecosystem. But prioritizing strong, unique passwords for critical accounts. And then again, with an aging population, they can't remember their passwords. I mean, I can't remember my passwords. But you want strong passwords, but you also want ones that they'll remember. But you don't want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't want my password as their password. So working something out, and even in the risk of writing them down, one of the suggestions that I've had is store them in notes. I store my passwords in notes with a lock on that particular note. So someone has to get into my phone, then they have to get into my notes, then they have to get into that note, and they have to get through that lock to get to the list of my passwords. And that works for me. There are other ways of doing it. I have a book that my wife, I actually kind of gave it as a gag to my wife for Christmas because she would always ask me what her password was. And you can buy this on Amazon. It's a a blank book with alphabet letters for different sections. And it's like WTF is my password, I think is the actual title of the book. And so she uses it. She writes stuff down on it, and we'll return to it as she needs. And when we change it, she'll cross things out and puts things in. Seems writing it down works for her. And then data protection. We have File Vault. File Vault on Apple systems really, I think, slows them down terribly. The couple of times I've turned it on because it felt like a good thing to do, I went back and turned it off, and then everything had to be unencrypted again, which took time to do, but then my system worked rather fast. But there are apps now that have built-in encryption that you can use, also VPNs that are helpful. So suggesting those kind of things in terms of safety. And then the last one is phishing, and helping people become aware of phishing. Some of the tips there, and again, this comes out of Mac Power users. Never call phone numbers listed in suspicious emails. Never provide passwords via email or text, and verify links and email addresses carefully. So even looking at the top of the email where it comes from, and you'll get a name that looks like it's coming from your bank, but when you look at the actual email behind that from thing, you'll see something that's a Gmail account, or it maybe uses some parts of the names of the bank, but it's obviously not coming from the bank. Before Thanksgiving, I was in my bank trying to do something financial and standing in line. And a woman came in who was older, and she was just she was weeping, she was wailing in a lot of ways. And she said, I'm on the phone with them right now. And they said they were from Huntington, which is the bank I was in. And they said, if I don't give them this information, they can't fix my account. And there she was in the bank. She had apparently been phoned, and they had said some things that got her very upset. And there were people that brought a person that came in with her, and other people that were sitting to wait to see representatives, calming her down and saying, you're doing the right thing. You're here. They will confirm it. They haven't taken any of your money yet. They're waiting to get that information so they can. She was just terrorized by this. And I thought, I know enough to avoid these phishing scams at this point, but there are a lot of people who don't. So with your families and with your friends, I mean, you can be an advocate for that in terms of reminding them about these things. And frankly, there have been a few emails I've gotten. I'm like, oh yeah, and I'm like, wait a minute. And I'm just a second away from pushing the wrong thing. So being vigilant about it, because the tricks still work and the tricks are getting trickier. There's some AI schemes that are going on right now where people do voice generated types of things from people's voice recordings and then put together AI generated fakes of voices. And the other thing you can do is you can suggest to your friends, this is a service I will provide you. If you get a funky email or something you're uncertain about, don't follow through on it. Call me. You've got my number. We can talk about it before you do anything that could be dangerous, or you'll wind up in a bank really upset because your account has been wiped out. And then if you think something's been breached, a couple of times I've hit some links and it just doesn't look right on my computer. And so I shut everything down right away, go in, turn it on in safe mode, do some, make sure things are safe and clean. And you should be running like Malwarebytes and other things to make sure that to protect you from those kind of scams. So that's what I've got for tonight. I think I took up close to an hour. Are there questions? I see some comments now.
Marty, are you ready for a question or a comment?
Yeah, Melissa had a comment in here. I'm going to read it. One password is like a firewall between you and Apple's walled garden. Make the 1Password vault unlock password easy enough to type, but hard enough to guess. Make up a mnemonic for remembering it. Yeah, one of the things that I found for mnemonics is there is an app called 3 Words, and it's a
3
geography
words?
app. I think it's 3 words.
What 3 words?
What 3 words? Yeah, what 3 words? Yeah. And it can give you 3 words for a particular location. So I don't use this as a password, but I live at Opera Cloud. I can't remember the third one. But if you found that 3-meter square, it would be the front porch of my house. So I've created mnemonics out of what 3 words because they're not connected in any logical sense. Sometimes I'll put periods between them. Sometimes I'll put different other types of nonsense in between the 3 words. But it generally, when it's looking for an extended password, that's what I'll draw from. There's one that I use that I won't share that's more of it's more of a metaphor that I can remember easily. But it doesn't necessarily make sense out of context.
The point that I'm trying to make there is that the trouble that I see is sometimes people get in the way of themselves when it comes to password managers, and they make their unlock password so difficult that they struggle to type it in and then they give up. So what I'd rather see people do is make the password that they use to unlock 1Password, make it a little bit easier to type, because you've got the key, you've got that strong encryption key that protects you. So as long as, someone's not shoulder surfing you, and you have situational awareness, and you make it, easy enough to type in, but difficult enough so that somebody can't just, see, oh, you're typing in my password is great, make it difficult enough, but not so difficult on yourself that you're really struggling to key all of that gobbledygook in, that you're, switching the keyboard to numbers and symbols and back to numbers
Yeah.
again and back to symbols again. You know what I mean? Make it a little bit easier on yourself, but not so difficult that you make it so hard that you just want to give up and then you don't use it. So you've got to strike a balance between between the difficulty. You can't make it, you want just enough friction, but not so much friction that you just won't use it. Because then it's not secure, is it? If you don't use
No.
it, then it's not secure at all. So that's why I said make it just difficult enough that it's too difficult to guess. So that's why I said, make something that's a mnemonic that you can remember, and then write down that mnemonic on the post-it note. Nobody else is going to figure that out. That's your hint, and keep
Yeah.
that close by. So if it's like you said, a place, a series of places and things that you string together, if you can remember that and use that to remind you that that's what you type in to unlock your vault in 1Password, then you're more
Yeah.
likely to get it unlocked and use it.
Yeah, I have, I think I still have a 1Password account, and I have stuff stored in there that I still pay for it because there's stuff stored in there that I don't want to lose, and I want to make sure it's somewhere else. I really would wish that we would get more biometric, because that's kind of, I think, hard to fake.
So you
I
can unlock
used,
1Password with Face ID.
yeah, yeah, that's what I mean with using biometrics. So I don't have to think about
Mhm.
what password am I using here, what password, and this is
Right.
me, it's probably wrong, but these automatic password generators where don't worry about it, we'll store it for you. I'm afraid, I get kind of afraid of those, that what are they storing? What if
Well,
how are they going
that's
to,
all 1Password does. It does make it
yeah,
up for you. Yeah.
yeah,
But just remember, once you if you're not, that's why I say 1Password is the firewall, because if you stick all your eggs in in one basket,
yeah,
and you keep all your passwords in Apple, then what are you going to do if you're going to use any other platforms? And if somebody does shoulder surf you and they do see you type in your 4-digit code, your 6-digit code, because remember, people are more likely going to use a 4-digit code or a 6-digit code. And then if they don't have that situational awareness and their Touch ID or their Face ID fails, because invariably it will, and they get shoulder surfed, or if they get tricked into it, or they get tricked into showing it their face, if everything's in Apple passwords, well then that's the key to their city. They
yeah,
have no firewall. So if you put things in 1Password, that serves as your firewall. So it's another layer that the hackers have to get through. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. Nothing's foolproof, but that's just my opinion and my experience on it, is that using 1Password gives you that extra additional layer as a firewall between you and your walled garden in Apple. If you put everything in Apple, then you don't have that extra layer of protection. Plus, you can only then use everything in Apple, and you can't use any other platforms if you need to.
yeah. It'll be interesting to see what Apple does with password, because that
Mhm.
app has gone from one
Mhm.
location to another, and how it develops, whether it
Sure, but
will be an
just
app that can be used,
right,
just accessing it through the web or a
right. And
web
right now
browser
it's
or something.
just for passwords. And then remember
Right,
that 1Password is a credential manager. It's more
right.
than just a password manager. It does a
Yeah.
whole lot more. That's my 2 cents. Okay.
Other questions?
Marty, I have a
Yeah,
few comments. First of all, I like your phrase celebrating small victories.
Mm.
I I do some of that with my clients, and I think I never thought of it in those words, but I've told clients who are hesitant, you're better than you think you are. You know more than you think you are. You can do this. And doing that enough times, that reduces the load of calls that I get. Um, I think that's a good thing. The other thing is when you're talking about projector boy. I was projector boy. I was the head projector boy in high school. Did the projectors in the film strips and
yeah.
all that stuff. I think did you say that you have this keynote boiled down to a PDF?
Yeah, this one that I did today, I saved as a PDF. across 3 screens right now. So if I close out the sharing, I can put the PDF in.
Well,
The document, yeah,
a great place, a great thing to do with the PDF would be to upload it to TMUG Talk.
okay.
Create a post in TMUG Talk and put it there and use the show notes keyword.
Yeah. Yeah. I might just for giggles put it in the chat. Let me explain some things that are on this. These are, and again, they'll be in the show notes, or they'll be in the PDF so folks can get to it. But these are kind of my current projects, including the Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, youtube.com/Old Mac Gang. You can't find it on Apple Podcasts right now, and I'll show you that in a minute. I'm doing vision profiles on Mondays, 9 p.m. Tech Savvy Professor is a project that I'm still doing. In fact, I cut a show this afternoon and uploaded it. It might be uploaded by now. And then Circular Firing Squad is Sundays at 7:30 is another one. Panelists on Mac Voices Live on Tuesdays and In Touch with iOS on Thursdays. My son, who is in Greensboro, North Carolina, emailed or text messaged me and said, you know, Dad, I forgot a dongle or a cable or something. You should do a podcast on tech and travel. And it's like, I don't need to do another podcast, but that's been nagging me. So that could be a future project. Ways that you can get a hold of me. And then you see here this QR code will take you to a website that has the stuff that I did for MacStock this summer. So it has the MacStock slides, which are very similar to this. I added this section in the middle about what your family might be coming to you for in terms of tech support. So this version will probably be of greater value to you than what's up there. But there are some other documents there that you can do. And then this is why I'm currently in Apple Purgatory. On the left was the logo that I used for when we started the Old Mac Gang. And about 5 shows into it, I got a message from Apple, and this was 2 weeks ago. I got a message from Apple, and they said, hey, we looked at your podcast, and there is a trademark violation. And I didn't even think about it, but this Apple was a trademark violation. So they said, we're pulling it down, make the changes to what would be a trademark violation. So I've been very nice to them. I want to get back into their search engine. And they said, once you do it, it'll take 3 to 5 days for us to get the system going. Well, that was 2 weeks ago. So I continue. What you see on the right is the more sanitized new logo that I'm using. But I had to take it out of the podcast. And since we also had video of the show, I had to take it out of the video stream at the beginning and the end of it. So I took a bit of work to get that editing done. And I waited my 3 to 5 business days, and then I emailed them this Monday, a couple of days ago, and they said, or yesterday, and they said, yeah, we're working on it. Don't worry about it. We're working on it. So I'm waiting to get out of Apple Purgatory and back into their search engine again. In the meantime, you can find the podcast on Spotify, and you can probably add it into any pod catching system that you have other than right now Apple's, but that should change with it. So that's my
on Google.
What? Oh yeah, you'll find it on Google, I'm sure. If you're using something like any other type of podcast app other than the Apple Podcast app, it'll find it through Spotify. And Spotify, because that's the platform that I posted on. I used to use other paid services that were were expensive, but I put it on Spotify. Spotify sends it out to everything. It's just that Apple isn't recognizing it right now. Although when I go into Podcast Connect, it says it's fine, it's published, but it's not in the service. So that's that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Marty.
much. This is a tour de force. And the thing that occurs to me, I've never been in the Navy, but I have been a sailor. And I understand what it means to run a tight ship. And given here is a manual or an overview of issues that need to be addressed to run a tight ship on your Mac or on any of your Apple computer stuff. And I really appreciate it. This is excellent.
Thank you. And as I said, and Bob knows, well, you can recognize a little tea mug behind me up there on the wall.
All right.
And I got a second one from Bob this summer on iPods. And that is, I've asked for that to be a Christmas present. So that I think is being mounted right now. And so if you see me again sometime soon, you'll see the other one back
Great.
there on the wall. And I'll move the Cubs over to the corner and I'll put the Don Drum's son somewhere in there. I uploaded the PDF to the group so folks can download it if they want. And I'll also post it to the T-Mug.
Okay.
Yeah. If
Great.
you,
Awesome. Thanks,
Yeah.
Marty.
Okay.
Thanks.
We have
And
one little.
good luck working with folks, with this, and treat them gently and, be a resource for them. Okay, Bob.
We got one more little bit of business tonight, which is to pick the winner of the door prize. And last month we had a whole lot of trouble with it, so I'm going to just try it myself and see if it'll work for me. Random number between 1 and 29.
The answer is 24.
24. 24 is Melissa Davis. How
Woohoo!
about that? And I don't see that you haven't won this this
Been a
year.
while.
So you are the winner of
Yay.
the T-Mug December door prize. And
get
I will
yourself a AirTag.
It's just before my birthday. It's my birthday present.
yeah,
There you
yeah
go.
I'll get a Apple gift card out to you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you.
And remember, have a happy Christmas and a Merry New Year. And whatever holiday you are, whatever holiday you are celebrating this time, whether it is the winter solstice or whatever, and come back and see us again on January, I think it's 21. Let me double check that.
Should be able to ask
I
Iris.
believe it's January 21 for Jill McKinley and Notion, getting your life organized with Notions. So please drive safe on your way home tonight. And we will see you in a month. And
Thanks, Marty. That was terrific.
listen
All
to
right.
the Old Mac Gang podcast and subscribe to it. I put the link to the YouTube for Old Mac Gang in the chat. And that reminds me I need to try to save the chat and send it off.
Don't forget to save the chat.
Yeah, and with the podcast is you can listen to it all you want. I think it's great if you just come in to see it being done on YouTube, because I'm using Ecamm, which is visually kind of a cool way to do video casts. So you get to see all 4 or 5 of us in the group talking about the topic for the night. We try to keep it to 30 minutes. Tomorrow, what did we agree upon, Bob? It was a list of,
Hell, I don't remember, Marty. Uh, don't you have it in the show notes in on the Google's doc?
no, I haven't even created show notes for it yet. Just trying to get through today.
Chris
I'll do that
Wesselman, do
after
you
this.
remember what we talked about?
There was a
talking about
list
tomorrow?
of 12 things you can do to kind of prevent phishing, I think.
Yeah,
Like
It's something,
12 days
It's
of
some-
fishing, huh?
yeah.
it was
It's-
Gary's CISP list.
Yeah, yeah. And Gary wanted to go with that, so we're going to do that. I think we have some other good shows coming up, or at least ideas for them. The Legacy one I really want to get into because it speaks to people in our age
We're gonna
range
have
and
5 golden rings.
we'll see. I just need I need ideas, Melissa. I know that you work with populations that you might have some ideas of stuff that we need to do
Oh,
with
yeah.
tech. So
Oh, yeah.
happy to have you share those with us as we produce shows. So
It's my
yeah,
jam.
the last 5 shows are really on troubleshooting. So if you want to know a little bit more about that,
Yeah, I'll try
it's
to give it
another
a
reason.
listen.
Yeah. And give
Yeah,
it a
that's-
watch. I think just because of the dynamics of how it flows, you get to see the folks and I'm starting to incorporate articles when we have them. So it's not just talking heads, it's also going to the articles. And I do that with vision profiles using Ecamm too. So
Yeah, the problem is I'm out busy on house calls,
Yeah.
working with the people
Yeah.
on Wednesday. So
yeah, well, you can also watch
hard
it.
to
I
do
mean,
both.
it's recorded, so we
Yeah.
can on YouTube, so you can
Awesome.
also watch it on YouTube. Yeah. Okay.
Great
Looking forward to it.
meeting, guys.
Good night, everybody.
I,
Be safe.
Merry happy holidays.
Have a happy holiday.
See y'all next year.